In the controversy today, the Golden Globes Awards were once considered to be one of the highlights of the acting calendar, where screen stars would see their achievements richly awarded on stage. But this year, not everyone felt like celebrating. For the first time in the history of the award ceremony, a transgender woman, i.e. a biological male, has won the Best Actress category. MJ Rodriguez starred in the LGBT plus TV show Pose and had previously been nominated in the same category of Best Actress for the Emmy Awards. So, is her victory a broader win for the LGBT community and acceptance, or have female actresses been snubbed?
Oh, well, joining us now, hopefully, is Kellie-Jay Keen, founder of... there we go. Founder of Standing for Women and a women's rights activist. Right, well, we're witnessing the erasure of womanhood here, surely, aren't we?
It's bonkers, isn't it? The best actress in the world, according to the Golden Globes, is a man. It's just the same as Caitlyn Jenner winning Woman of the Year award, many sportsmen taking a variety of championships awards for women. It's all over the shop, isn't it? I mean, is there any space that women can have all of our own? It seems these days the answer to that is absolutely no.
Kelly, I mean, some people would say, Kellie-Jay, that actually, transgender people, they have actually fought through barriers, they have smashed a lot of glass ceilings, and there isn't a category for them that necessarily is aligned to their gender identity. And they have been living as a woman, they are seen and perceived as a woman within society and are playing a woman in some instances. And so why shouldn't they be allowed to have the female award?
Yeah, and I guess to those people, I would say, what about women? I think when we look at the history of these awards and all of the Hollywood shows, and quite frankly, I think Ricky Gervais hopefully has finished off many of them, and the pomposity and the fact that we should all kneel at the altar of Hollywood. I really hope that is something that is beginning to diminish. However, when it comes to women's awards, I mean, there have been years when no woman director has been nominated. It's not like women, aside from in the female-only categories, are actually winning many of these awards. So they were entirely necessary. I mean, if people are so inclined that they think there should be a special category for, one could argue, people who act nearly every day of their lives playing a role, then if we think that people who call themselves transgender deserve awards, then either their sex category, or let's create a special award, an LGBTQ plus award.
Well, I think that perhaps potentially is the next step, because it does seem to be a deadlock that we're in, and this debate has been raging for several years, and it doesn't seem to have moved forward. And maybe that is the kind of compromise within a mature and compassionate society, that we have an LGBT plus category for these award ceremonies. Potentially in sports, we have a trans category for sport, and potentially, as we've been having discussions about keeping prisons single sex, potentially there is a trans wing for prisons as well. Do you think that is a compromise that you would accept as a kind of radical feminist rights activist?
Well, I'm not a radical feminist, but I honestly think if you suggest that to these people, that you will find that for many men who call themselves trans, the opportunity to be recognised in a category alongside women, whether that is a rapist in a women's prison, or whether that is someone winning an award or using a woman's space, it is mostly about validation. And so it's not validating if we suggest a third space. It's not validating if we suggest a third category. This really is about people...
But Kellie-Jay, we do know that, for example, gender dysphoria is a recognised condition, and for a minority of people, maybe not the numbers that we're seeing now, but for a minority of people, it is recognised as the appropriate treatment to transition medically, and for them to feel a sense of comfort in who they are and how they feel about themselves. And therefore, do you not think that we can accommodate a very tiny minority of people that have that within society?
I think, of course, we can accommodate people with all sorts of conditions in society, but not women accommodating men in women's spaces under any circumstances. I think once we start saying, oh, you're a good one, you can come in, you're a bad one, you can't come in, for a start, I don't know how we'd police that. And secondly, women don't want that. I'm not particularly interested in what your motivation as a man to come into women's space. You're not coming in. Women are far too important to give up these spaces and these rights to any man.
I think what's going to be fascinating, right, has been the reaction to J.K. Rowling, right, her views on this. And then all of a sudden, if men start winning female awards, how quickly Hollywood will change and whether or not they can, because so many of them will have spoken out against J.K. Rowling, right? And then all of a sudden it gets to the Golden Globes and they're like, I think I might have won that award if Gary hadn't turned up. And I wonder whether or not we're going to see a bit of a change. What do you reckon?
I hope the person is called Gary. That would be just such a delight. I think it will. I think eventually this impacts every woman, no matter where you are on the sort of the societal strata. I think eventually it will come knocking upon your door to speak out or forever hold your peace. And for some people, I have no idea. I mean, what has got to happen before some of these women speak up? How many more things have to happen that go completely against women and women's rights and spaces and safety? Is it going to take before some women actually grab their courage by the hand and bring it forward? It's just so bizarre.
But Kellie-Jay, I mean, hasn't this been one of the problems with feminism in general for a long time? I'm not saying that you are a radical feminist, but a lot of women, if you actually look at the statistics, actually only a minority of women identify as a feminist. They don't necessarily see themselves as primarily acting within a kind of political sphere as a woman, and maybe just don't see this issue as something really, really important to them. And they kind of think, oh, this just seems a bit, divisive and toxic. I'm going to ignore this. I mean, so perhaps it may not be the case that women increasingly are going to stand up against this, and it may just go to its logical conclusion when many of these awards and groups will be dominated by people that are trans-identified.
I mean, personally, I've never thought feminism is the solution to this particular argument. The women that I know that speak out mostly, that have the most to risk in their lives, they don't call themselves feminists. They haven't got time to read some academic, theoretical idea about why women should have our own spaces. These are women that actually live their lives really on the front line of what it means to be losing their rights. Now, that might be somebody who works in a large warehouse who has to share the toilets with a man. Or it might be somebody right at the bottom of the pile who is likely to be searched by a police officer who calls himself a woman, or even end up in prison. For those women, feminism is not going to come along and save them. I've always thought, actually, that so many feminists nowadays think men can be women, that what's the whole point of feminism in 2022 anyway? But no, it's real, it's actual women. These are women's rights. We need to get back to what it means to be a woman and women's rights, and why women in the past that may or may not have called themselves feminists actually fought for the rights in the first place. And who the hell are any of us to give them up?
Kelly, I think it's a really interesting point. Of course, it's not a debate that's going to go away anytime soon, but Kellie-Jay Keen, thank you very much, founder of Standing for Women.